What's up, guys? So I've had this pump since the late 90s. My father actually bought it for me for my birthday, I think. Sometime in the late 90s, it came with a Iwata siphon airbrush. This is my introduction to airbrushing, and I've been using it lately since I got back into the hobby. It works fine, but I wanted something with an air tank. Getting a little more serious to the hobby, I noticed running this for a long amount of time, even though it's a good brand, that sometimes it starts sputtering when the motor gets hot. So I was thinking about getting one with a tank, but then I realized I already have one of those right there. So this is a 30-gallon Cobalt air compressor, which I usually use for like working on cars. You can see I have the reel up there. I have pneumatic tools and stuff I use with it. But what's the difference between a large shop compressor like this and a small airbrush compressor like that? And the answer is not much. There's no secret sauce that makes that any better for an airbrush than this. So I wanted to use this because I have it already. This was, I don't, now let me just clear something up now. I'm not recommending you go out and buy, a $400 or $500 air compressor to use for airbrushing unless you can use it for other things. Then obviously, yeah, that's a good deal because then you can use it for multiple things. But if you happen to have one of these ready, or even a smaller one, I know a lot of people have like those small pancake ones or the side profile ones that are smaller. This is a 30-gallon tank. This is a lot. But it works perfectly fine with any air compressor. So the differences are that usually like the pancake ones or the side, the ones that are tilted on the side this way, those are usually just some a vacuum pump, much like the airbrush specific air compressor. It's just a vacuum pump that pulls the air into a tank. With this one and a lot of larger ones, this is an oiled compressor, meaning that it uses a piston like that you would find in a car to shove air into the tank. So you can see it has an electric motor. There's a belt in this box back here that spins a crankshaft and drives the piston up and down. And as the air compresses on the stroke, it gets forced into the tank. I'm sure there's some kind of valve in there to prevent it from backflowing when it's on its downstroke. But yeah, 30 gallons. So some precautions that you have to have, and you should do with any air compressor, but especially larger ones like this that shove a lot of air into them quickly. When it's humid out, there's going to be water in the bottom of your tank. When you compress air, any moisture inside is going to precipitate and fall to the bottom of the tank. That's also going to be in your air when you're spraying. So what I did here, you see I have the line coming out, and I got this moisture trap slash air filter on Amazon. It's called PneumaticPlus. It's a Korean brand, so it doesn't seem that cheap. You can say I have it in here with a quick disconnect, and then I have it coming out with I have a 1/4-inch ball valve here, so I can cut the air supply off to the airbrush. But you want at least one filter, and a large enough filter, because being that this is a piston-driven oiled compressor, when these rings begin to wear out on the piston, some oil is going to be able to get by and get into the air supply. So you don't want that obviously on whatever you're working on with your airbrush. So I'd suggest at least one good quality filter, if not more. So you can see I have this routed down here, and I'm probably gonna get a longer line. I just picked this one up because it was 25 feet and it was like 10 bucks. So I'll probably get something else that I can route like across my whole garage neatly, but this is what I have for right now. And then you can see I come over here and I have, it's the same company. It's just the 1/4-inch version. So the other one that I just showed you was the half-inch version, which, by the way, I had to get some, you see this 1/2-inch adapter or reducer to a 1/4-inch. I had to buy those separately. Those were like 10 bucks. But then I have this 1/4-inch one at the terminal end. I have this hooked up with a quick disconnect so I can disconnect the tube and get out of the way, go hang it up by the air compressor when I'm not using it and I don't want the hose laying on the floor. So I have this smaller filter, and then also had this laying around, so I threw this on too. I figured, why not? will have an extra filter that's never a problem. And there's also a pressure gauge on this one, so I can see what the pressure is set to. I set the pressure, use the pressure regulator on the actual air compressor to set the pressure, and then I'm just using this to make sure. And then you can see that's directly hooked up to the airbrush line. And then let me turn the light on here, and then I have my airbrush. And as you can see, it looks great. There's no air. There's no air. There's plenty of air. There's no water that I've detected at all. In the large trap over there, there's some moisture, but when I get to here, I ran this for like 20 minutes. I don't see any water in there. I don't see any water in there, and I don't have any water in there. And by the way, if you guys are still using like those plastic inline traps, you need to get one of these Mr. Hobby traps. These are absolutely the best. All last summer, super humid out, rains a lot. I was having trouble before having an inline filter with the brush spitting a lot of water. I got one of these, one of those, regular plastic traps. This thing. I actually have it on this other airbrush that I have. I tried using this, still was getting lots of water. Got myself one of these Mr. Hobby moisture traps and dust traps, and barely had anything coming out of the airbrush. Super easy to use, super high quality. There's two filters in it. There's a dust filter, and then there's actually a moisture filter too. It actually makes holding the airbrush a lot nicer too. But anyway, continuous air. So I'm gonna actually do a test and see how long I can keep this on constantly before the air tank trips back on. The oiled air compressor tank. So that's another con of using a shop tank, is that they're a little loud. The ones that use the piston tend to be a little less loud than like the pancake style ones. Those are really loud. But I think like this is gonna last at least like, I don't know, it's like 7 to 10 minutes. So it wouldn't really be going off that often. So yeah, let's do that. So I can kind of see the benefit of that Drew Blair spring, because just holding the button down, like overcoming the spring, is actually a little bit tiresome to the finger. My finger is actually feeling some strain to it right now. So we're almost at a full 10 minutes without a recharge in the So we're closing in on 15 minutes here, and it still hasn't tripped the air compressor back on. I'm pretty impressed here. I thought it was going to last for like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes maybe. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Oh, there we go. All right, guys, so there we go. We got 15 minutes and 19 seconds of continuous airflow at 20 psi on a recharge of your compressor that takes 1 minute and 3 seconds. So that is pretty good. That means your air compressor will only go off 4 times an hour if you were continually having the air on, which is probably not going to be the case. So I see that the air compressor is probably only going to go on maybe twice an hour, maybe if that, once an hour. I don't see any water in there. It feels a little, I feel a little bit of moisture coming from there, but not a whole lot. So this is the 1/2 inch one, and I put a little cutoff valve here so I can shut the air off. So 15 minutes of continuous air from the airbrush. This is amazing. I probably only going to go off every so often. Super happy with the setup. I think I spent like under $80 for this whole setup besides what I had already. That filter was 40, the smaller one was 20, and I had to buy another one of these quick disconnect sets. I had a few of them already, but that was like $10. The reducers on the 1/2 inch one was like $10, and this line was like $10, 25-foot line. This is a what is it called? A Campbell-Hausfeld. So if you have a shop compressor, if you were looking to buy a shop compressor because you work on cars or whatever, and you can have a dual purpose for it, I'd say pull the trigger. And if you have one already, or you have like a smaller one, like a pancake style, or another just regular shop compressor, I would definitely go with this setup. Like I said, it cost me about $80 rather than spending $200 on a, it's usually, I was looking at the No Name from Spray Gunner. The compressor looks about this size, and it's just sitting on top of a 3-gallon tank, which I think lasts for like a minute or two from the videos I've watched. But yeah, can you use a shop compressor for your airbrush? Absolutely.
So yeah, that's it. This is just some footage of me using the airbrush after I installed this setup. Right here I'm just painting some black chrome, outclad black chrome on a part of my RX 782 Perfect Read Unleashed. It's finally warm enough around here for me to just get back to painting in my garage. Super stoked about getting back into it. If this guy's helped you out, give this video a like. Anything that I used for the setup will be linked in the description below. Some might be affiliate links if you want to support the channel. Please consider using the links. It's no extra cost to you. And please consider subscribing. I would like to grow my subscriber base and get more content out there. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, comment below, or shoot me an email. I'll be happy to talk to any of you guys about the setup.